Welcome everyone to today's demo on debugging a project using Visual Studio Code. In this session, we will be using Federation demo project from the Apollo GraphQL GitHub repo. This project showcases GraphQL Federation and provides an excellent opportunity to debugging with the VS Code. So let's dive in. To begin, make sure you have installed VS Code on your machine. Also, make sure you have the latest or at least the latest stable version. Once that's done, clone this repo on your local machine and open it on the VS Code. So let me clone this real quick. Okay, make directory new VS Code debug cd VS Code debug. Okay, well, clone Federation demo project, cd into that one, open with VS Code. So I will go quickly to the readme. It will have pretty generic stuff, npm install and how to start the services. So npm install to install all the dependencies, and the run start services will go in depth once it is installed. So let me run the npm I command while it's gonna take some time, so while we'll explore the project structure and all. So let's start with getting familiar with the project structure. So this project consists of services, accounts inventory, products, and reviews. So this has like 4 microservices, and we will focus on account services for our debugging purposes. So before we start debugging, let's make sure we get everything. So we'll have to wait for this npm install running. Once that is installed, we can go and start setting up the debugging. So on VS Code, so shortcut is Control Shift D, or you can just go here and click this debugging menu, where it will open the launch this debugging panel, where to start with we have to create a launch.json which will hold the configuration file for our project for debugging purposes. So let's quickly go to package.json file, and if you do Control Shift P, it will open this uh, Control P to it will open this, where you can type up the file name and go to the file name. So package.json, we will just see what it has. So this has gateway is a gateway Apollo gateway. Then we have these 4 microservices, so which is under services. And if we run the start services, as we saw earlier under readme, like start services is to this will run all the services, 4001 to 4004. So we will have to make sure like we run this services account index.js. So we'll have to copy this path, and we can go back here and create a launch.json. Once you click that, it will ask us to for what you have to set up, and you click here Node.js, it will load the pre-configured configuration for us. Here what we will do, we will just copy this, we can keep this as well, and run gateway in debug mode as well. So we will be focusing on the services. So as we saw earlier, it was under services, accounts, and index.js. So and we can name it accounts, so we know it is accounts. And let me format it a little bit, and launch program we will rename is as gateway. So we are not going to focus on gateway anyway, we will be focusing on account services. So let's quickly go and check what account services does as well. It is loading. We can go to the index.js which is the entry point for account services. Okay, so if you are familiar with GraphQL, it will have mutations and queries. So mutations will for creating or updating or deleting features, and where queries are for just query, where it will read the it's for reading purposes. So here we can see in index we have this me query, which is not actually connected to any database or anything, but it will just return the uh, users from, I think the users are hard coded here. Let me see. Yep, users are hard coded, so sub 0 index will be returned on the me query. So once this is installed, we will run this app in debug mode. So let's wait for this to install, getting this thing done. Okay, so as we can see, the installation is completed, and I think looks like they are using Lerna for their gateway. I'm not a big fan of Lerna, but anyway. So here, instead of running the npm start services, we will run the service from the debug mode. So, and we know, let's quickly go to readme and see which port it is going to be running. We will see on the console as well. So this can be, okay, 4001, I guess, since it was the first service. Okay, so let's begin. So go to the debug panel and accounts. Once we hit the play button, let me go to debug console. Once we hit the play button, we will see, so server ready at URL. So we have the console log statement here. So it has started. We will see these output as well. Print line server ready at URL 4001. So let's copy this and open it on the here Chrome. Okay, so I think this is old GraphQL. Now they have the Apollo sandbox, which is it has nice UI as well as some more features like for passing token and all stuff. But here, as we can see, this is GraphQL playground, where you can see the schema. So we saw the me query under the resolver, as well as it returns the user. So let's say before we run the query, we can put a breakpoint here on the here. So we will run the me query, and it will return the user with 0 index. Let's go back to the GraphQL playground. Here what we will do is query me, and me returns user. So here, as we can see, me which returns user, and the type definition of user is it returns ID, name and username. ID is must, since it has exclamation. What it indicates is it is a required field and we have to ask for it. So ID, then what, name, and next would be the username. So as soon as we hit the play button, it will stop. It should stop on our breakpoint. So let's hit it. As you can see, it has stopped here. So what it will do is so we got the user, it will return this one, user with name Ada Loveless. Okay, and here you can, this has nothing more, but we will try to edit this and see what we can do, you know. So once you can step over or step into or step out kind of stuff. Once I do play it, we will see the results here on the playground. So as we can see, data, me, and then the user, Ada, and username and ID and all stuff. Also, this what else we could do is like, let's say if we have more functions, or okay, we have user too. uh, Resolve reference, I think this is not needed. I think this is outdated. This is very old code. But if we have to, let's say we have larger code base and we have to debug further, like if we have controller methods or repository, so we can even transform these. We can put into the watch, we can look at the call stack and then debug further. So let's say, let me run this again. Here we can see this call stack where it is stopped, as well as how it came here. So this is pretty straightforward, but when we have large code base, this is really helpful. Even if we have to submit this data to the database or other external API or internal API, but not this project, so we can update that values as well as during those API calls. Not only that, it will allow us to stop this application on the caught or uncaught exceptions as well. So that is really cool about it. One more thing I would like to show is, like, let's say you have environment variables, and many of times I have seen this, like when you run the application locally, it runs fine, but when you run into debug mode, it doesn't fetch the environment variable. So what we have to do is we have to add additional attribute here called env file, and what we have to do is, like, whatever path of that env file is, that you have to give here. So let's say we if we if it happens to have, mostly it is at the root level. So with Windows, you have to make sure you have this backward slash instead of forward slash. I think in Mac it works the other way around, but if it doesn't work, you could give it a try. So I think that's all I have to demo today, and we have successfully debugged the account services of the Federation demo project using VS Code. Remember, these debug techniques can be applied to other services within the project as well, or you could choose your own Node.js application, or any other Express server or Apollo server. It could be anything, but this comes really handy for troubleshooting the microservices or queries or mutations. Also, thank you for joining us today, and happy debugging. Let me know in the comment what do you think about my video, and what next videos you would like to see me on. Thank you. Bye.